We are live. Welcome to the second day of the Virtual Fatherhood Summit, man. I'm so glad that everyone's here, that you guys are watching. We had some great guests yesterday. We had a great chance to talk about faith and dive deep on faith. And what does faith have to do with fatherhood? There's so many times that we don't feel like we have that purpose because we don't have anything higher up, or we don't have that faith to make us understand how valuable we are. So today, the second day, we're starting off with a grand slam. I've got my friend Alan Thomas with us. Alan, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Man, I cannot wait to get started. So, Alan here has been married for 32 years, which is phenomenal and almost unheard of in today's world. And Alan, you've got such an amazing story where you and your wife lost a ton of weight, almost 200 pounds altogether. You guys have kept it off. You guys have worked as a team. So what did it mean to have your wife with you on this journey?
Well, it was, Angie and I have been married a long time, like you said, 32 years. And it was one of those instances. One of the secrets to our marriage has been, like most people, we pretty much discuss everything. And that was the one exception. I'd let my weight drift to 304 pounds. I'm not 11 feet tall. I'm only 5'11", and so 304 pounds was pretty big. And so when I saw that, it really affected me. And I made a decision to get the weight off for about the 10,000th time. Anybody that's got more than 50 pounds to lose has probably made that decision a few times. There have been a couple of Sunday binges, and then Monday they're on the diet, and by Tuesday they're eating it. So eating back the way they were. But Angie and I had signed up for a coaching challenge. It was actually Nick Unsworth's Life on Fire challenge. It was a virtual challenge that we did together. We pretty much do everything together. We have our whole life. And during that challenge, we got a 10-minute coaching call. And this is going to get back around to the marriage part, but we got a 10-minute coaching call that I really had not realized that we got as part of that package. So Angie said, "Will you take the call?" So 10 minutes is not very long. When somebody's getting to know you, it's just real short. So my coach was a guy I'd never met face to face. We've talked many, many times since then. His name's Yo Kim, Hyo. He was an associate pastor of a church in San Diego, and he was working with Nick and the Life on Fire team. And on day 3, probably 3 minutes into our third 10-minute call, he said, because my focus is business, getting this up and running. He said, "So what do you think is holding you back?" And I said, the first thing that popped in my head is what I said. And I said, "My weight." And he says, "Well, how much do you weigh?" I said, "Well, I'm down to 298, but I saw the scales a couple of weeks ago at 304. And I just saw a picture of my wife and I, and I'm like, who am I kidding?" That picture, the before picture, was taken on March 11th, 2017. And I think one of the things we do is we convince ourselves, whether it be with weight or wherever we're struggling, we convince ourselves it's not as bad as you think it is. And sometimes it's worse. And I looked at it and said, "Oh my God, I didn't look like I weighed 304. I looked like I weighed 404. And so he said, "Well, what do you think would really, do you know what to do?" And he was asking me, do I know how to eat or whatever? So everybody knows what to do. I said, but I would use a program that a friend of mine used, that he lost 65 pounds and he's kept it off for now 11 years. And I said, he said, "Well, why don't you do it?" And I said, "Well, I've done it." I said, "I know it works. I've lost a few pounds, but I always fall off the wagon." And he said, "Well, have you thought of anything that would help you stay on the wagon?" And I don't think I use the wagon, but help you stay on program and see it through to the end. I said, "Well, a buddy of mine I was talking to a while back, I said, if everybody had to see me weigh, like my friends from high school, my friends from church, people that we live around, if everybody was kind of like The Biggest Loser kind of thing on TV. If everybody's watching, I think I could eat sawdust for as long as it took to get my weight down." And so he said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I thought about posting my scales to Facebook." And he says, oh, that's a great idea. Do it right now. And so, and this is a real mild, this guy's very soft spoken. He's not a hardcore guy at all. He's not a, hoorah, guy at all. And he just said, do it now. And I said, well, I'm going to do it maybe when I get 180 or 270 or 280. I was at 298 at that point. He says, no, do it right now. And he kept on. And I said, really? I said, man, I remember saying it to him. I'm sitting right where I'm sitting now. I said, it's like jumping off a cliff. It was really scary. And I said, okay, so I'm going to do it right now. So I typed out a post and basically was a cry for help. I said, hey guys, I've got a lot of weight to lose. I didn't own up to the 304 at that point. Okay. And I said, I've got a ton of weight to lose. I've let myself get to 298. And what I did, my friend John, who lost 65 pounds, has kept it off for 11 years now. He lost a little over 0.4 pounds a day. Okay. Now the program that he's on doesn't guarantee anything like that. It talks like, I think they say average weight loss is 12 pounds, but I knew that average stunk and I didn't want to be average. And I knew that if he could do it, I could do it. And in fact, I knew that if he did it at 260, when he went and he was in the mid 200s, I don't remember his exact weight, that me at 300 range, I should lose faster. It's just math. And so I calculated 0.5 pound a day for, the number of days I needed for 123 pounds would be 246 pounds. And I looked at the calendar and it took me up to November 16th, I think it was. And I said, well, gosh, let me bump it up to the day before Thanksgiving of 2017. So that's what I did. I bumped it up to the 22nd of November. I said, if I stick to it 100%, I should make that. I mean, I'm not talking no cheating, no nothing. And so that's what I did. And when I pushed that post, I hadn't talked with Angie about it. And so about 5 minutes later, she comes walking in, because she's checking Facebook all the time, seeing what's going on. She says, what in the heck have you done? I mean, she's standing right there. And so what have you done? I said, listen, I didn't talk to you about it. But when I'm 175, you're not going to be unhappy, because Angie's never nagged me about my weight. She had some weight to lose, but she didn't have the kind of weight I had to lose. And so she never nagged. She's cooked 10,000 chicken breasts for me to eat ice cream afterwards. And I mean, you name it. I mean, she'd always been supportive, but never nagging. But I didn't realize why she was so bothered by it, because after about 2 or 3 days, we started having a lot of people post. Actually, a friend of mine immediately hit me, said, I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. He said, what are you selling? I said, nothing, I'm fat. And he said, he said, I think I'm going to join you. So we created this little thing called the Extreme Accountability Challenge. And guys started joining. 2, 3, 4 guys were on it. But all these ladies were questioning it. They're like, well, what are you guys doing? And you could tell they were afraid. And so Sunday, this was Wednesday, the 15th of March, when I posted my first post. On Sunday, I remember we were in our family room, and I said, Angie, there's a bunch of ladies that are questioning this. I said, I bet if you would post your scales, that these ladies would join it and you could really help some people by doing that. She says, there is no way I'm posting my weight. There is no way I'm posting weight. This is a lady. I mean, women don't talk about weight. It's really an uncomfortable thing for guys when we get large, but especially a lady. But and you have to understand my wife's psychology around weight. She would go into the doctor's office, and I've seen her do it personally. Her doctor didn't know what she weighed. She would not weigh for doctors. She says, I'm not huge. I know I need to lose a bit, but you don't need to know. And she would get in arguments with nurses. I've seen her do it. I mean, I'm like, come on, it's just scales. What's the big deal? But when she was standing in here questioning me about why did you do it? It's because she knew at that point, because we do things together, that she would be joining me. Now, here's the fun part about it is I've been in life insurance sales for many years. That's my day job as I build my coaching practice. But I can guess people's weight. If I worked at the fair, I do pretty well at the fair. And she said, nobody knows what I weigh. I said, Angie, I'm going to tell you, we've been lying to ourselves. I said, I know what you weigh. She said, you do not. You don't. I haven't weighed in front of anybody in 20 years. And I said, well, I said, I'll bet you that I can guess within 10 pounds of your weight. Now, that's a very dangerous thing to tell your wife, no matter how good a relationship is. And she said, you cannot. I said, yeah, I can. And so I can say this out loud because it's on Facebook. It's in our post. But she, I guessed 186. My wife's 5'7", and she looked at me when I said 186. She said, "How did you know?" She was 188 at the time, so I guess within 2 pounds of her weight. And so she posted her scales, and I don't know that it made it. It would have been impossible because I think weight loss, business, marriage, there's some parallels in all of them. There's nobody's really been able to figure the value of a made up mind. And so when it came to losing the weight, my mind was so made up. I know it helped to have Angie on the journey. It certainly made life a lot easier. We both were like-minded in the cooking and the kind of things that we do, the activities and all. But the weight loss really parallels the marriage. I mean, you asked me what difference did it make to have her along the journey. I mean, well, it made it easier. There's no doubt. I mean, if she was eating cheeseburgers and ice cream and stuff, and we have treats now and then. I mean, now, but it's not the everyday thing it used to be. But it would have made it harder. So yeah, it was good. And a lot of people ask us, and I know this is about marriage, but it's all interwoven. I mean, you can't. It's like people who have 2 checking accounts that are married. Everything's interwoven. I'm not condemning anybody for that. If that's what they do. You don't get to, when you get married, you don't get to decide that I'm going to keep this separate life in any way, shape, or form. You have to intertwine your life. I don't have a secret sauce for anybody. I mean, there's no secret sauce to it, I don't think. But when we make decisions, we make them together, except that one time. So, but that worked out pretty good because by the way, she went from 188 to 125 in 190 days. She's very competitive. So when I saw, when I saw her hit her scales, she's watching and she is going to hit that number, and she nailed it. She did fantastic. I think she averaged about 1/3 of a pound a day. She actually got really, honestly, a little too low in her BMI, but that's another story. But she did phenomenal. It was life-changing for us as a couple. And then a lot of people ask me, so what did you do for exercise to lose weight? And I said, I asked my doctor about that midway through. He saw me, I guess I was 50 or 60 pounds down. He said, so what kind of exercise are you doing? And he lives a couple blocks from me here on Amelia Island. And I said, well, you see me ride my bike. I said, I ride my bike. I walk some. I said, but let me ask you a question, Doc. I said, what do you think exercise has to do with weight loss? Now, and I'm not condemning exercise. I exercise every morning. I usually take a day off a week. But he says, he does this. He does 0. He says, because now I know that's mathematically not completely accurate, but here's what he said. He said, you can lose weight laying in a hospital bed. He said, so just weight loss, for the sake of weight loss, he said, you can lose weight without changing your exercise. He said, but exercise is good, it's beneficial, it's healthy. So what happened was our exercise routine became a big part of the daily activity we spent together, but we exercised because we lost the weight. When you're 300 pounds, you don't feel like exercising, guys. I mean, I get up in the morning and I don't feel like exercising now that I'm down in weight a lot of mornings. So I didn't want to get out of bed, but I do it anyway because the way it makes me feel. But we incorporate that. We don't do real, crazy exercising. I mean, we've got a unique place where we live, about a half mile. It's actually about a mile from the house. There's a park that's an outdoor gym, and it's right on the Egan's Creek in Amelia Island here. And we walk to the beach almost every morning, and it's about a 3-mile walk. We do a little running. I'm not training for a triathlon or anything like that, and but love to do more. We're real passionate about type 1 diabetes. Excuse all the beeping there, guys. Let me see if I can get that cut off and not interrupt this. But I apologize. I don't know why I'm getting so many hits here. We're real passionate about type 1. Our daughter is a type 1. She has type 1 diabetes. She was diagnosed at the end of the year in October 2017, which that is not type 2. Type 2 is what you get typically from inactivity and diet. That was what I was on my way towards. I didn't have it, but my daughter has an autoimmune disease, and we're real passionate about that. And we we want to do one of our goals this year is to do a ride. They do 100-mile bike rides to raise money for type 1. So that's something we're looking at. We would have never considered that before. So it still takes some training. So, and a better bike than I've got now. So.
Wow, I love this journey, and you know, the phenomenal thing is that is just one small part of your life, you and your wife's journey together in these 32 years, and that's over a period of a year that you guys lost so much weight, and that you guys you know, were able to improve your own relationship. So, how has going through like this specific journey, how has that helped improve your relationship with your wife? And why do you think that this experience has made such a big difference in your marriage?
Well, you know, here's the thing, Matt. I think that it certainly it's helped. I mean, but interestingly enough, when you're taking on any big challenge, you better have a good reason for doing it. You know, a lot of people call it knowing your why when you have a goal. And when I stepped on the scales on March 2nd and saw 304 pounds, it was, I wasn't accustomed to photographing my scales. I mean, that was there's a picture of those scales that I post frequently still. But that picture was taken, it's kind of like if somebody bombed your neighbor's house, if a missile landed in your neighbor's living room, you'd run over there and make sure that those people were all safe. You call 911, and then the next thing you do is you pull out your cell phone and take a picture of it, because like Edison said when he saw his factory going up, it's unlikely we're going to ever see a spectacle like this again. And so when I saw the 304 pounds, I popped a picture of it. But what got my attention was not that I had a 48-inch waist. It wasn't that I needed a double X, maybe a triple X shirt. It wasn't that I wanted to be a 34 pants again, which is what I wear, a medium shirt, and because I knew underneath all that flab was just an average size guy. It was that I've been in hundreds, really thousands of houses in my insurance career. And I deal with people over 50. And many, many, many times I go to the wall, I see, when I'm meeting them for the first time, I want to know who their family is and stuff. And I see it and I'll say, well, who's this guy? And he's usually a chunky fella. And he said, well, that was my first husband. So what happened? I don't ask it, but I'm thinking divorce. Well, he died when he was 57. I was 55 when I saw 304 on my scales. And so it dawned on me that I had never met a 65-year-old guy, and was 10 years from then. Wasn't even 10 years. I was about 55 and a half. So it wasn't even quite 10 years that I'd be 65. So I was going to be known as Angie's first husband, because I've got an attractive wife. She would move on with her life at some point, hopefully later rather than sooner. I like to think there's some connection there and all, but the point is, the chances of me not being known as the first husband and me having some control over it. Now I could, the Lord could take me home tonight. I mean, there's no guarantee, but I think it's one of those things that it's like what Summers Duffy, the first guy that joined me in the weight loss journey, he lost over 100 pounds also. He's had some medical problems and things, and he was hesitating for getting in the mix in it. He took it just like I was, just like anybody would be. And he was hesitating, posting his scales. And I called him and I said, wouldn't it be awful? I said, if you died, and I said, and you got to heaven, and Jesus said, what are you doing here so early? It wasn't this disease or that disease or the other medical conditions that would keep, that would take you out. It was the cheeseburgers and the donuts or whatever it is. I mean, I think we all have a choice every day. And I mean, it's kind of a funny story, but the reality is that, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. I've come to give you life. It's in the same sentence. And, what more insidious way to do it is by a bite at a time. And what's the biggest lie that the enemy tells us? He tells us tomorrow. No, it's now. And so how did it improve our marriage? It extended it. So now, again, I have no crystal ball. I can't tell if I'm going to live till past tomorrow. We're not promised tomorrow. But here's the thing. I can promise you this. If you don't take care of your health, it will go away. And so not ever meeting a 65-year-old man that's 300 pounds and 5'11", I mean, I knew that my time was short. And so that was my motivation. That was the reason why I did what I did. And that was what pushed me to do that. So how did it improve our relationship? I don't know that it improved it. I think it extended it. And so to have the opportunity to spend more years with her, whether it's one day or 20 more years. I mean, now I feel like I've got a shot at 90. I mean, I haven't checked the stat out, but I think it's pretty close to accurate. If you make it to 60, you've got a 50-50 shot at 90. So 50-50 shot's pretty good. You can count the 90-year-olds, on one hand. And I got challenged by a 92-year-old recently. He was, I was commenting on how fit he was. I wrote his wife policy, who was a young 85. She was healthy too. She got a day one benefit policy at 85, but he does 60 push-ups every morning. And he says, well, I'm down from 90. I've lost a step. This guy's 90 something years old. Wow. So you get, if you're active. And so Angie and I, what do? We spend more time together doing things that we enjoy. We feel better when we're together. We're not there's all the health benefits that new habits create, but the biggest one is extension of the journey.
Man, absolutely love that. Something that you said in our time together so far is that you and Angie figured out very young in your relationship that you guys are going to, have some great communication, that you guys are going to do life together. You guys aren't going to have the separate checking accounts. You're not going to do, have your own individual little lives. What are some of those steps that you guys took when you guys maybe first got married, first got into a relationship that has helped build that terrific marriage up?
Well, we made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I can tell you, we didn't do it perfectly. I can't think of a specific steps that I could rattle off. I mean, it's a great question. I'd have to go back and think through that. But I think that the biggest thing, if anybody's new to married, or if they're thinking about getting divorced or whatever, I mean, we have fights. We don't get along all the time. I'm a long way from perfect. She's a lot closer to it than I am, but we have disagreements. But when, and I'm not saying there's not reasons that people should get divorced. So don't hear me say that. And I'm not saying there's condemnation for people who are divorced. But I'm saying, if you got a choice, if you're still in the game, okay, I've never met, I don't know of anybody that says the grass is greener. And so I mean, it might be, maybe I'm wrong. I don't, but generally, if you can go back and you can just say, make the decision that I'm here to stay, that there is, I had a friend of mine recently, his close friend that's a very successful guy. He's one of the inspirations to me losing weight. And he had his last drink in 1993, and he's very, very, very successful. He travels all over the world, and one of the things that was really where I got my original idea to post my skills to Facebook is he's so accountable. He calls me from South Beach, Miami, probably paying $1,000. I mean, I don't know what he pays for a hotel room. It's probably $1,000 a night for a hotel room, and he's on his way to an AA meeting. He ain't got time to talk long. He's on vacation. He's in Costa Rica. He's on his way to an AA meeting. But this guy who's so passionate about that, he's just a type A times 100, and he's one of the greatest guys you ever meet. And they were here recently and having dinner, and he was telling me how he realized that and this guy's older than me. He's realized how important his wife is to him, and he has made her such an extreme priority. And it was, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about it, but I know this guy, when he makes a priority, it's like multiply all of the willpower times 100. This guy's got it. And so but it's that kind of decision that wherever you sit, whether you're 57 like me, or whether you're 20 something or whatever, if you can take that off the table and say, it's like Cortez burning the ships. We get that story told 1,000 times. But if when the boats go up and you know that you're here to stay, then how can I make it work? And if it's pick the log out of my eye first. I mean, usually I'm trying to, and like I said, life's not perfect. It never is, but that part of the equation is never on the table. I mean, so the decision and then acting on that. And no, I made tons of mistakes. She's a very forgiving woman. We've been through a lot together. We've transformed. 14 years ago, I decided I didn't like the business I was in. Had a 6-figure income, and I read this guy's materials. Said if you had basically all the money you want, you could do anything you want. Would it be what you're doing? And the answer was no. And within 14 months, we'd sold our business, we sold our home, and we picked out a new life. She's always like, let's go, whatever. She has no risk aversion. So that every lady's not like that. So I think you have to speak to whatever that is in your marriage, or, in each individual's marriage. So I don't know if I answered your question, but make a decision and just stick to it. It's the temporariness of our day, and the comparative nature of the times we live in. It's pretty hard to look at Facebook and see everybody's highlight reel. We all see highlight reels. We get the best picture. You're sitting there with the kids and everything while I'm screaming at mine, you see what I'm saying? I'm like, dang, I wish I could be as good as Matt. We all see the highlight reel. We all do. You're going to make a mistake as a dad. You're going to make a mistake as a husband. Your wife's going to make a mistake. Be quick to forgive. And it's not easy. God, I get ticked off. She gets ticked off at me, I guarantee you. But we take the leaving off the table. And so maybe that's it. I don't know if there's a better way to express it. Everybody's different what their opinions are. But it's I think it's like Christ said, I've given you, Moses gave you divorce because of your hearts were hard. So soften your heart, and that's not easy to do. Mine's hard lots of time. A lot of calluses on mine that I'm working on. So
that's great.
Work in progress. I assure you.
So going through the weight loss journey and the consistently trying to make yourself better. I know you're involved in a lot of different personal development and consistently trying to make yourself better for not only your wife but your children as well. So how has that journey and personal development, how has that impacted you as a dad?
Well, I think you realize my dad, who passed about 7 years ago, he told me a long time ago, more is caught than taught. You can preach all you want to, but if you live it, and and that speaks directly what Christ said there, the 11th commandment, basically, we're treat each other as I've treated you. That's how they're going to know me. And so if I'm telling them to do something and they see me do something differently, it's pretty hard to have that conversation and be authentic. Kids see through stuff, whether they're 4 or 44, and our kids are 28, 24, 20, and 17 on Friday. So we've got them spread out pretty good there. But it got my attention when the week of that I posted my scales, my 24-year-old son, who he's a restaurant manager and studying to be a sommelier. If you guys, I didn't even know what it was. That's a wine expert. That's like a PhD of wine, and he's passionate about wine. He understands it. And I've been telling him for a long time, he's real well spoken. He's much better spoken than his dad. And he, good looking kid, looks like his mom. And I said, man, you want to start doing some YouTube videos. And he talked about it. And it was interesting. The week I posted my scales, he started, and he hasn't done it consistently since then. He's probably, I think he's got probably 10 or 15 YouTube videos up, but he created Adam Wine TV and went and started talking about wine and beer, different ways of, and all that. And he listed the first part, and he said, the reason I'm doing this, he said, my dad can post the scales. I can post this. And so it got my attention that, when you don't get to pick and choose. and this is hard because, man, like I said, I'm still learning so much of this stuff. You know, all the different areas of life where we set goals in our career. You know, guys are thinking about their career all the time. We're thinking about finances more. We forget about our health. It's easy to forget about fatherhood and our families. I mean, we're charged and trying to do that. When I got married, I mean, I thought I was done. I said, hey, I got the trophy wife and I'm done. I found out pretty quickly in those first couple of years that I wasn't done. You're never finished. And it's so much the same thing with our kids. My 28-year-old I talked to just a minute ago, he's in law school at George Washington, and so taking exams. I mean, you're not finished with your weight. You're not finished. The day that I hit 175, the guy that helped me through the journey, that coached me through the journey, he says, "Congratulations! Now the hard part begins." And I said, "Oh, that stinks." So at any rate, but my daughter, my daughter Ashley, who, and this was before she was type 1, she was health conscious. I mean, in fact, we found out about her type 1 diabetes on it was a God story in that it wasn't found out in a diabetic coma. She was found out because a particular school, which I will remain nameless, lost a physical of hers, and she had to get a physical. She wanted to join the girls weightlifting team. My daughter's very feminine, but she wanted to stay healthy for her lifeguard type training that she does all year. She's lifeguard here at the I think county level, city level, whatever it is. But she was at a physical and found that. But before that, I don't mean to digress. Before that, she would leave me notes, about my weight and health. You can do this, you can do this. I mean, it's affecting everybody in your family. I mean, when you've got a health issue that you have control of, or you have any kind of issue that you have control of, and we've got it. And this is the thing: the I can't is pure bunk that I've told myself for years. I can't. It's not that I can't lose weight; it's that I won't lose weight. It's not that I can't get healthy, it's that I won't get healthy. It's not that I can't control my anger, I won't control my anger. It's not that I can't. Does that make sense? And I didn't say any of this was easy, but all of it's simple. And we make it so complicated. I've made it complicated. I still make it complicated, guys. I mean, I do. But our kids see it and they respond to it, and they're very likely going to follow our path. If they see us living an unhealthy life, the likelihood, and I don't know the stats on this, but I've been into a lot of houses and I see mom and dad. If you have healthy, fit mom and dad, you have healthy, fit kids. If you have healthy, obese mom and dad, you have obese kids typically. And I'm not saying this to condemn anybody. I'm saying it because just look through. It's reality. If we're smokers, smokers, which baffles me, but I see that all the time. And I see a lot of smokers. Mom and dad are tobacco users. Kids are tobacco users. Okay. I mean, go down the list. And again, I'm not condemning people. It's because all of it's simple, but it's hard. It is hard to make that shift. It's hard to do that. And so how's it affected? I believe that I extended my kids' lives too. I mean, I believe I extended their life. We do things together, all of that stuff, but really maybe I gave them another year, maybe by just and I don't believe in coincidences, but the coincidence, I believe in, that those are coinciding angles. I think they were supposed to happen. That's what a coincidence is. And maybe, just maybe, the fact that I was within, I think the picture you posted was about October, was the weekend before after my daughter got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Do you think it matters what she eats now? I mean, do you think it matters? I mean, see, she doesn't, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of tangent here because I want you guys to picture this, because Angie and I are working on a book of our journey, and I devoted a full chapter to this. I wasn't planning to, but I posted every day for 250 days, and it gave me a love for writing that story. But think about the people that don't get a choice. My daughter has a CGM, which is continuous glucose monitor, to monitor her type 1 diabetes, to monitor her blood sugar. every time that meter is off, you don't know whether it's off, and it's off frequently, even though it's an expensive meter, but keeps us kind of on alert. I've got an app on my phone. My wife's got an app. She knows whether she's going to have a low or a high, and she's got to watch that. Well, she has to give herself, she has a finger prick. Well, that sounds benign. What she does is she's taking and jabbing her finger with a needle till she draws blood. Okay? She has to measure that. She does that multiple times a day. Do I have to eat a cheeseburger? Do I have to eat an extra bite of food? No. She has to do that. If she's insulin, every time she sits down to a meal or to a snack or anything, she has to balance her carbohydrate intake with the insulin taken in. Her pancreas essentially has stopped, but it works a little tiny bit. And when it works too much, that means it causes her to have a blood sugar low, which is more dangerous than a blood sugar high. So all of this stuff I'm saying to you, that's not a choice for her. If we make our health if I can get in the same mindset as Ashley, in which is what posted my scales to Facebook, and I'm not suggesting everybody post their scales to Facebook, but whatever it takes to get in the mindset of that this is a must and not a should. And I think Tony Robbins says that if we make things that are really important to us, we make them urgent and make them a must. We're not shoulding all over ourselves all day. And I said should. We're not, because that's what we do. I should do this. I should do that. When's the right time to start eating healthy? The last meal, the one you can't change. So do it now. It's like Yo Kim when he said to me, I think you should post that scales now. And I said, you mean now? He said, I mean now, right now. So it's now, and we don't, because might not have an hour from now. You might not get that option. Does that make sense? So I don't think it's coincidental that my daughter was diagnosed at the very end of my weight loss journey. We already became very, very conscious of what we were eating and how we were behaving with what our relationship with food had become. Do we still have ice cream? Heck yeah. I had Cold Stone Saturday night, but do I do it every meal? No. That was the first time I'd had ice cream, and I don't know when. I discovered that, just a health piece, I discovered wheat is an enemy of my system. Not from a weight loss standpoint, from how I feel. I ache when I eat wheat. I don't eat wheat anymore, except very rarely. It's not something that's taboo, but if I can count on one hand the number of times I've had wheat in the last month. And so, because there's a lot of things in the food that I don't have to know all of it. But if my knees hurt more when I eat wheat, then I'm probably not eating wheat. So that makes sense. So how it affects all that. I mean, I just think it's sort of like being married. It's all interwoven. You don't get to pick and choose. You don't get to take like we're doing this little video that'll be posted, and you get to take a snapshot and nobody gets to really see anything. You don't get to do that with your wife and your kids. It's all interwoven. There are no snapshots. The reason I have great memories of my dad is because he was perfect? Heck no, my dad wasn't perfect, but my dad was authentic to me. And so I have these snapshots in my mind that I remember from that. My wife and I have great role models for marriage, though, too. My mom and dad were married 62 and a half years before my dad died. My mom will be 89 in April. Her parents, they've been married, I think, 54 years. My wife's an only child. I'm one of three. That model, it does help, but it also, if your parents weren't, if you're not blessed to have parents that were that stayed married, you're blessed with something else. There's never a void. God doesn't leave it that way. He fills the gap somehow, and so that's what I firmly believe. So don't use other people's past as your excuse, and that's easy for me to say, I realize, but no, it's not. I still have to stay married too, and because I know the pain of the other side is nowhere near as bad as anything that's going on. And if you make a choice to work on a relationship, and it's something I don't do all the time, but I can tell you, buy flowers when you're really angry, when you're really mad at your wife. Next time, I'll challenge you guys to do this. Everybody watching this. And I don't do this every time. God, the florist will be out of business. But but no, that's not true. But whenever I'm mad at my wife, I try to go buy her flowers then, because it's very hard to stay angry at my wife when I'm giving her flowers. Try it. I dare you. It's really, and boy, it's hard to pay. I don't, I'm not buying a $10,000. You don't have to spend $10,000. You can buy one rose. You can buy whatever the favorite flower of choice is. All the grocery stores have them now. But when you do that, it becomes easier. It softens the rest of the day, because here's the thing. Years ago, the guy that Dan Willis, who he and Robbie McAllister told me about Jesus in 1991 in a way that I can understand it. And so Dan's my go-to guy. He's this fantastic listener, like you guys are. You listen to me run on and on and on. But you asked, so anyway. But Dan, this is about 5 years ago. He said, I was on I-95 headed to an insurance appointment, and I had prayed for patience that morning. And you guys know what happens when you pray for patience, right? Yep. So I said, why can't I get this? I mean, I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I'm not the dumbest guy on the block. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm not the dullest either. So why am I not getting this guy? And immediately I thought about Dan. I said, well, I'm calling Dan, because I believe that's a gift. And so I called Dan. I said, hey, Dan, it's Alan. So I prayed for patience this morning, and all I'm getting are traffic jams, challenging moments, but, kids, wife, everything. Why? What's going on? And Dan is a real soft-spoken guy. He's one of the greatest people I know. And he says, well, I don't know. I'll never forget. He's open with this. I don't know much about patience. This is the most patient guy I've ever met. And he says, but I know God says in His Word that a patient man is a man of understanding. And I'm like, and it was like you have those cloud parting moments where all the clouds part. I just finished reading a chapter in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay. And there's a story that Stephen Covey tells that most of you guys know, that when he's on a subway, and I'm probably telling the story a little bit off, but you'll get the gist. When he's on a subway, and he's talking about paradigm shifts. He's not talking about patience. He's talking surely about paradigm shifts, having more than one way to look at something. That's all patience is. Being impatient is looking at something from an impatient eyes. Impatient looking at something from that other side. And so he says, this guy gets on the subway with all these screaming kids. It's on a weekend. Everybody's kind of relaxed, drinking their coffee, headed to their destination. And these kids are just going crazy. They're, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever age group. And finally, one of them either knocks his paper out of his hand or his coffee or whatever. He says, well, I'm going to tell this guy a thing or two so to get these kids to settle down. And so he goes, taps the guy on the shoulder, and the guy's like in a daze. He wakes him up, even though his eyes were open. He says, sir, you got to do something about these kids. And he said, I'm so sorry. I guess they're out of it. We just came from the hospital where my wife died. Their mom died. And so I get control. And so immediately that Stephen Covey had understanding. Immediately. He immediately understood him. So immediately it went from being impatient and angry to how can I serve this guy? So if we'll look at our marriages through that lens, and I stink at this, guys. I'm working on it. I'm not saying I've got it down. I promise you I don't. But taking flowers when you're angry will move you in that direction. I promise you. It is magical. And I'm not saying that it's easy. It is simple. But I've missed many opportunities myself. But when you do it, it does bring about an understanding conversation. So anyway.
I absolutely love that. I love your quote there that more is caught than taught. And I think that is an essential concept for us to understand as husbands, and not only husbands, but as dads. Because once we understand, and this is the kind of the nuggets of wisdom that I get from your story and from your journey, is that once we understand our own value, once we understand and we transform ourselves, and we develop ourselves, when we understand that value, our children and our wives are going to pick up on that. And so once we understand and we can implement that value into our children, you talked about your daughter giving you encouragement. You talked about your son being able to start the YouTube channel because they saw the value that they had because of what you were doing. And I think that is a message, a terrific message, that every single guy out there needs to understand and not only understand, but implement into their own lives. Once we understand our own value, we can be transformed. Alan, thank you so much for jumping on here. Tell us a little bit about your current business and how people can get in touch with you.
Well, Angie and I are actually transformational coaches. That's if you go to, you can email us or me at Alan, ALAN, at transformmyfuture.com. And it's spelled just like it's spelled accurately, transformmyfuture.com. And Angie and I we do a focus boot camp, a 6-week boot camp that we take between 5 and 10 individuals through a focused goal. One of the biggest challenges that most of us have is getting clear on what we're doing and take them from the foggy stage where they don't know what to do, kind of like what we did. It's not just with weight, but we also help people in weight loss. They can go to Stick to It Now and see the program that Angie and I use, sticktoitnow.com. And that's the program we used. Angie and I are also health coaches in that, but our focus is people just like us that are self-employed entrepreneurs, move them from the unhappy place that they are, like we were 14 years ago when we transformed our life and moved down to Amelia Island, Florida, and giving them hope and encouragement in that and a plan.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. And we did have a message on Facebook asking to see the difference in your weight transformation. And Alan doesn't know that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and a picture. And here you can see the weight transformation that Alan and his lovely wife Angie did. This is over a period of less than a year. That was on March 11th, 2017. Yep. So again, guys, understand your own value, and that's something that our wives and our children are going to pick up in. Terrific. You got to show the other side of that. You didn't have the other side of it. That's not how we look now. Well, there's at least should have been two pictures. It showed one side is all I saw. So there we go. Okay, maybe it was my screen. That's it. Yeah, that was, yeah. I was going to say, golly, that scared me for a minute, Matt. But men, understand the value that you have, and that value is going to be implemented not only into your marriage, but as your job as a great dad as well. Alan, thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you letting me banter. Enjoy being here with you guys.
Good. It was great to hear your story, Alan. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. And for anyone who's listening, thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.